The Intra-Africa Trade Fair, in collaboration with Afreximbank, taking place in Cairo, Egypt, has generated significant support for the creative arts in Africa, including the establishment of a $1 billion African Film Fund to be launched in 2024 to support the continent's film industry. At the CANEX Summit on Friday, November the 10th, fashion industry professionals and designers from Africa and the diaspora discussed the impact of utilizing fashion design for innovation and socio-economic progress. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka also held a fireside chat during the CANEX Summit, where he unveiled his latest novel, Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth. He spoke with Oji Okpe, who is in Cairo, Egypt, covering the summit. She sent in this report.
Welcome to the Intra-Africa Trade Fair in collaboration with the Africa Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, which pretty much stands as a shock absorber that Africa needs to build trade within the continent. And that's according to Afreximbank President Benedict Oramah. I am Oji Okpe, live from Cairo, bringing you all the panel discussions in entertainment, art, fashion, and design. This year's Creative Africa Nexus, CANEX, an initiative by Afreximbank, which features panel discussions to support Africa and African diaspora's creative and cultural industries by providing financing and non-financing instruments to boost growth, kicked off on November 9th to run through November 15th. The panel discussion on designing for change and fashion with a purpose. Fashion industry professionals and designers from Africa and the diaspora discuss the impact of utilizing fashion design for innovation and socio-economic progress.
I realized that there was a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of fashion coming up, which was inspired by Africa, but not made in Africa. None of it being acknowledged, no credit being given, and definitely none of the financial benefits of the African origins being shared with Africa.
I spoke with some of the designers that have been making tremendous impact on the continent of Africa, including Olushola Babatunde, founder and CEO of One Stop Celebration, who has made remarkable strides in the Nigerian fashion industry.
A company, One Stop Celebration, OSC, is certified women-owned company encompassing consultancy, a garment production company, a Pan-African fashion training college, and its own clothing line. Now, what's the inspiration behind this multifaceted brand as it appears?
Okay, so for me, this is a calling, it's a passion to ensure that Nigeria is placed on the international map. And that every Nigerian youth, woman, boy, child, or anyone, even those who are physically challenged, can play their own part in the industry, can find something to do that will make them proud, will earn economic empowerment for the women, and even as a nation could even earn us foreign exchange. So we don't always have to look out there. If we look inwards with the numbers that we have, hard-working youths, they just need to be skilled and trained, and the sky is the limit to what they can do.
I think the big question is about funding and how to get more funding into the fashion industry. Did you get a sense that that happened during this panel session?
So, it's a very interesting question. I mean, when it comes to the funding conversation, I feel like every industry will say their industry is more important and so deserves funding. Again, going back to my last point, I feel like to be seen and heard is a first starting point to understand what we go through. The next phase is to encourage and improve these conversations. It will take us a while for us to even build the mindsets to get ready to accept funding.
The icing on the cake was a fireside chat with Nobel laureate, playwright and novelist Professor Wole Soyinka, who unveiled his new novel, Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth. He spoke about his array of literary works, including dabbling in fashion, music, and his collection of Dane guns. Professor Soyinka, who has been a strong advocate for culture and the use of proper language, also condemned what he called a new wave of internet culture.
Professor Wole Soyinka, are you going to ever stop writing?
You know, I've said enough is enough so many times. I wasn't expecting to write this, for instance, but events and things accumulated in my mind, and then I managed to find some space where I could tackle peace of mind away from the environment which produced it. And so the book came out. So your question is a very important one. I would rather be doing very often many other things far more pleasurable than writing, because writing is not the most pleasurable of activities. So very often it's anguish, very often. But in the end, you've sort of purged yourself of accumulated debris. And that, at least, is something which one should continue doing for as long as one is capable of it.
Absolutely. Well, if you ask me, what I took away from that session was what you said about the proliferation of the internet, especially by Nigerians. Why do you feel so strongly about that?
I feel strongly. I see everything of value being debased. Values which I grew up with as a child, and that includes language, by the way, the use of language, appropriate language. When I see a space being infested, the communication space, infested by people of a lower intelligence, integrity, sense of concern, of involvement, than existed in the print media. Because always remember that this internet is nothing novel about it. It's enhancement of something you've always been doing before. It's an enhancement of the print medium. And there is a more critical approach to the print medium. The editor sits down, even letters to the editor goes, that particular comes through vetting processes. But now you can have any kind of pig from the gutter who simply because he's got a paw and can therefore put that paw in dirt, in filth, and then imprint it on the nearest surface. That is what internet has begun. And having known better from childhood, all the way through my development, it's abysmal. It's an abysmal stage of one's compelled existence to have to confront things like that. I don't read, but I read things because things are sent to me that link. People will say, you need to see this. You think you've seen the worst, but take a look at this one, this more. This is what happens these days. And something drastic has to be done about it. And the publishing enterprise has a role to play in this, a huge role to play in this. Maybe we even have to organize a real week-long, month-long seminar across the African continent. So let the garbage at least come from elsewhere. Why should it be coming from my own society?
Yes,
a society that has produced engineers, doctors, valued all over the world. Go to the Arab world, you see Nigerian doctors everywhere. Go to production places, construction sites. Go to NASA. You will see Nigerians there. And yet some garbage, simply because they have access, are now fouling up the total productivity, the complex and ennobling productivity of my society. It burns me up. And I hope I never meet any of them responsible in a dark alley. And I was showing that I can be younger than the 90 years of age.
I'm sure you can always be younger. Professor Wole Soyinka, thank you so much for talking to me.
You're welcome.
So you do strongly believe in the regulation of the internet, do you?
Well, you've asked, you see, that's a very, very large question. Regulation. Before I would rather discuss, say, theoretically, if you're going to regulate, who regulates it? How does it go about? Does the regulation begin from education, new education? Do we include teaching from the level of primary schools, because even children now, they speak a language which I don't understand, internet language. Watch them at work there. I'm like an illiterate, and I would never compete with them with that. So maybe we now have to totally revise our educational system to take in this new monster, which, however, is a valuable contribution to the entire human enterprise. So when you talk about regulation, I want us to be very careful there. I don't want some dictator like this last one attempted to do, wake up and say that I'm banning Facebook. Idiot. You just wake up and say you're banning Facebook. That's nonsense. Do something constructive, methodical, structured about it, including making the criminals understand that they deserve to be somewhere else.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Such a huge honor to be in your presence.
Joining us now from Cairo, Egypt, is Ojinika Ojiope with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx. How are you?
Well, good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai. It's a misty Cairo this morning, and I'm here at the St. Regis Hotel overlooking the River Nile, which is the longest river in Africa and has been historically been so, and it's been considered the longest river in the world. Well, it's the 5th day of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair in collaboration with Africa Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank. It's a big day today as world leaders, including the president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, will be joining and be performing an opening ceremony for the trade fair. Well, it's the 3rd edition, and it aims to open the African market to African businesses and enable Africans to create investment opportunities and regional value chains. Over to you, Dr. Abati.
Well, first, let me commend you on the interview with Professor Wole Soyinka. I'm sure that that interview will generate quite some interest, particularly what Professor Soyinka was saying about the internet, how it's all about majorly garbage. And, the fact that many of the characters that, use the internet use it for, reckless purposes, more so because there's no vetting of content. Anybody with any phone or access to a computer can just go there. And Professor Soyinka has been consistent on that particular point because he has spoken about this so many times when he gets maligned on the internet or people just promote falsehood with, over-reliance on 140-word intellectualism. And then I like the point he made about avoiding regulation, banning this, banning that. And he said perhaps education. Maybe what we need is proper education, particularly, for the upcoming generation. Because, in any case, you cannot ban the internet. You cannot stop the future because the future is technology. But perhaps maybe if people are better educated and they have values, they will not do the kind of thing they do online where they abuse people, finally. The other point that, the book, there was book presentation there, but that book, Chronicles of the Happiest People on Earth, it was actually originally published in 2021, September 2021, by Bookcraft. And it's Professor Soyinka's, 3rd novel. The first one, The Interpreters, in 1965, Season of Anomy in 1973, and now, the Chronicles of the Happiest People on Earth, 2021. And what is he saying there? It's a political satire, talking about a country, Nigeria, and similar countries in Africa, where they sell body parts, where medical doctors sell body parts, and where there's so much corruption, so much inhumanity, which is, one of the major themes in his literature.
So, real quickly, Oji, let me just comment on your lovely interview with Prof.
Well,
the truth has to be said, Oji, is the fact that Prof has said a lot, and I subscribe to what he's saying. But also, what Prof failed to say is the fact that there are many gatekeepers that are given the responsibility that put on those insightful things to online and that spread garbage and that do a lot of incriminating things to online. And there are even people that are supposed to know better as gatekeepers. Take, for instance, we will never forget the tweet after the election by the now special advisor on strategic information for the president, where he said this should be the last time a certain ethnic group should say anything about Lagos elections. Those words were sad. Those words were not good enough for somebody of so many years' experience in media, a fighter and a crusader. I will never forget the words Mr. Bayo Onanuga put out there. Absolutely. So what Prof should also add is that even the so-called gatekeepers that should know has often used the social media to perpetrate this division and intolerance, which should not be tolerated across board. So that's what I want to say. Oji, carry on. You're sparkling this morning. Action!
Thank
you. As always.
Thank you, Rufai. Well, I also wanted to say, I wish I was there with you guys in the studio right now. I also wanted to say to you, Rufai, Professor Wole Soyinka did say that the internet is not, a new invention, but he also preferred a solution, which is, industry stakeholders should find a way to perform some sort of week-long summit to educate, the people on the right use of language on the internet. I wanted to put that across as well. But let's now turn our attention to Saudi Arabia, at the Saudi Arabia Africa Summit, which took place over the weekend in Riyadh, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu deliberated with captains of industry and made it clear that Nigeria is open for business. Well, Tinubu traveled with some ministers, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and the Minister of Trade and Investment, Doris Anete. However, other dignitaries invited by Crown Prince Salman of Saudi Arabia, including Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, and the chairman of this day, Arise Media Group, Prince Nduka Obaigbena, were also in attendance. They were invited by the Crown Prince. Well, Obaigbena, after the Nigeria-Saudi roundtable, charged investors to make good on the investment promises.
It's a rousing welcome for Nigeria. It was a great trip. The president led the charge, calling for investments for Nigeria as the chief marketing officer for Nigeria. And the people of Saudi gave a resounding welcome. Now the details is in the action. Thank you very much.
Well, all right. Like you heard the chairman of this day, Arise Media Group, saying that the Saudi government are willing to invest as well. And, they said that, they will provide a substantial deposit for foreign exchange to boost Nigeria's Forex liquidity. I mean, this was a statement that was released as well from the Minister of Information. And this liquidity will help the ongoing Forex reforms by the Central Bank of Nigeria. I don't know if you saw that picture that was trending, Rufai. I think you were also tagged in that picture, showing the chairman as well as, the Minister of Niger, as well as Aliko Dangote. A whole picture of people thinking or even saying that the chairman of this day accompanied Tinubu to Saudi Arabia. But obviously, we now know that that story has been debunked because he was actually invited by the Crown Prince to attend that summit. Over to you, Dr. Bati.
The Arab Africa Summit has yielded, very good returns. And it's good to hear, an eyewitness at the event, Prince Obaigbena, reporting that Nigeria was well received by the Saudi authorities. The Saudi authorities had said that, look, they want to engage African countries. They want to spread, across Africa and see what opportunities are available for cooperation, for trade, for investment. And indeed, President Tinubu's trip was focused on the idea of trade and investment. And one of the things that came out, promises made by Saudi authorities in terms of partnership with Nigeria in the energy sector, oil and gas in particular, and also the Saudi authorities saying that, look, they will make some FX deposits, which would help to facilitate, Nigeria's ongoing forex reforms. And we've seen reports in the newspapers today indicating that as a result of this, the Naira has appreciated, and there's been some kind of, optimism just on the basis of that move alone. And that's about symbolism, about signaling, translating into effect. However, when we go to these summits, we get all the commitments. What is important is to follow up. And that is why I agree, with the point made that the detail is in the action, because many of these opportunities exist there, but they can only be activated when we follow through. And I can see the coordinating minister of the economy is there. Major business, figures in Nigeria is there. I thought I saw Wale Edun now of Wando, Alhaji Aliko Dangote.
Wale Edun was there?
Yes, and others. So it's for Nigeria to continue to open up. And as Mr. Edun said, Nigeria is a major and a welcome investment destination.
Okay. So real quickly, Audrey, I'm happy about the announcements made.
Before you go, Rufai, I also wanted to say that right after that summit, President Tinubu did go and attend the Lesser Hajj and prayed for Nigeria.
Good on President Tinubu, as a Muslim, they're attending the Lesser Hajj and praying for Nigeria. We're all praying for the country. We want the country to do well. But you see, Audrey, I want Nigeria to do well, but we need to be able to state things the way they are. We have reported about many possible investments. I have also gone to check with the Saudi authorities through Saudi Gazette and all of that. You see, the reportage is not as bullish as ours as regards investment, but it remains to be seen. It is when those investments come, I'll be very happy and I will celebrate. All right? And the truth has to be said. We also need to be careful as regards information dissemination, just like what happened in the case of Dubai and the UAE. But I want this investment that have been touted to come to Nigeria. I want them to be able to fix, the refineries. I want all this investment to come in and all of that. But we must now ensure that this investment come in before we can. But I've also checked, because when you hear announcements like this, you check from both sides. I've checked the Saudi Gazette. There's no really bullish reporting as regards all of this, new things we're announcing. But I just hope these investments come. That's just my own. And kudos to Nigeria.
Yes. Yes, we are all keeping our fingers crossed for Nigeria and for the investments to come, like you said, Rufai. Well, I guess we should talk a little bit about the elections this weekend. You guys were in Nigeria experiencing, I read a newspaper headline over the weekend. Let me just pull that up. It was quite the headline. I can't find it here, but it was about, APC supporters shot dead in Kogi. Well, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Dino Malaye, had posted a video over the weekend demanding for the cancellation of the elections in 5 local government areas of the state. He said that the elections were marred with irregularities. He also posted a video of a fake police officer or fake policemen who were apprehended without ID cards and were kitted with AK-49 rifles. If we have that video, let's just pull that up quickly for our viewers to see.
There's a massive protest in all polling units in Ogori Magongo local government of Kogi State right now. The resources have been, filled and tampered with already. And people are refusing to accredit, people are refusing to vote, and they are insisting that plain result sheet must be shown to agents in accordance to electoral law. If they refuse to show you result sheets in all polling units across the state, don't accredit, don't vote, protest and resist it. This is democracy. We must protect our votes. We must protect the process. We must make sure that all the regulations are being observed and respected. I call on all my agents all across the state that once plain result sheets are not shown to you before the commencement of accreditation, don't accredit, don't vote, resist it and protest, record it, video it, show the faces of these compromised INEC staff and security agents and post it on all platforms on social media. We shall overcome. This election is a must win for us. Thank you.
And they are wearing police uniform.
They are wearing police uniform. Fake police. Sometime when they come here this morning. I'm telling you. Police are police. Police are fake police.
Are you on election? You have your ID card. None of you have ID card. Where is your
madman. What are you talking about? We have been
We have been making the comments, calling on the government that there are thugs in Ahmed Park. These are the thugs. These are their rifles.
Look at your rifle.
Look at them. They are not with ID card and they are saying that they are policemen. They are not getting anything.
Very interesting, Ojineka Okpe, to see that all the way from Cairo, Egypt, you are still keeping an eye on details trending in Nigeria, particularly with regard to the elections.
Absolutely, Dr. Abati, that is my job. That's all I do for a living. You know that. That's my job. I keep up to date. But I also wanted to say it was not only in Kogi State that we experienced this type of police officers dressed in uniforms and being harassed.
We have to go now.
Oh, we have to go. Okay.
Ojineka Okpe there from Cairo, Egypt.